I haven't met a person yet who doesn't want to have balance between work and the rest of life. Join me as we explore the subject of balance. Hi, I'm Alan Vink, and we are currently in a 4-part series entitled Margin, Reserves for Overloaded Lives. 2 weeks ago, we took a dive into the subject of progress and the associated pain that most often comes along with progress. We concluded that progress is inevitable, but that there is an underbelly, there is an underside to progress, and that is some pain. And there are lots of evidences of that, and we explored that a few weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we had a look at the prescription for the pain that accompanies progress, that so many people experience, and actually it's not what you think it might be. It's not Panadol, it's not Prozac or alcohol or even another holiday or a longer holiday. No, it's a fabulous, wonderful concept called margin. Basically, margin is about having enough left over in the tank after you've lived your everyday life. Enough physical energy, enough emotional energy, enough time, and enough financial reserves after you've lived your everyday life. Last week, we looked at this idea of simplicity as a means towards this concept called margin, and the associated ideas of slowing, stopping, and solitude. Now, this week, as we conclude the series, I want to talk about a subject that I'm actually very passionate about, a subject called balance. It's about this incredibly elusive thing called work-life balance, call it what you want, but generally finding balance in life. We all have a variety of responsibilities, plenty of things to do. Well, how over the long haul do you find balance so that everything that's important is given its adequate time? Remember, urgent things will always get our time and attention, but the urgent things aren't always the important things, and often times they're not. So as people who want to live thoughtfully and carefully and wisely, how do we make sure that our life is balanced, sufficient, so that we might be able to give adequate time, quality time, and plenty of time to the important things of this life? The things that really matter. Actually, the things that will go on into eternity. Now, to do that, I'm going to do a little bit of art. Now, you need to please understand that me and art have never been good companions. So just give me a little bit of slack and I'll do my best, but it's pretty basic. But anyway, here we go. What I want to do is I want to look at life, your life and my life, in what I call 4 quadrants. So I'm going to draw a circle here, and I'm going to do a little circle on the inside too. I'll come back to that. And here is our 4 quadrants that makes up pretty much everybody's life. The first quadrant I'm going to call personal. So it's about your personal life. You have to give attention to yourself. You need to give time to sleep. You need to give time to meals, eating. I mean, eating is not just a commodity, it's something that we need fuel for our body, but we also need to take a little time over eating because it's a very social thing. And lots of countries in the world do eating actually a whole lot better than we do in the West. You need to also spend a little time on what we might call personal development, to improve yourself. You want to do some skills development, you want to go to study, you want to do this or that, and generally taking care of yourself. So that's personal, rest and recreation, R&R. That's all around you and looking after yourself and ensuring that you're in good shape. And if you're not, because keep in mind, if you don't give enough time to yourself, you're not going to be much use to any other quadrant or any other aspect of your life. It's just not going to be there. And sadly, actually, a lot of people fall over right here at the personal point and are not much good for the other quadrants. The next quadrant, and I think there is actually a order here for me, but I wouldn't want to overstress that point, because I'd rather think of life as a whole rather than necessarily a list of priorities. But the next would be family and friends. So it's about giving time to the people that you love the most, your family. If you're not a married person, you still have a family. So giving time to your family, to friends. Oh my goodness, how many people in our modern day in affluent, industrialised countries come to the end of their lives and they are friendless. Some, more sadly, they're even familyless. I mean, they've just burnt their family off, they've burnt their friends off, or they simply haven't given enough time to this incredibly important quarter of life. Well, when I say quarter, let me not just say it's exactly a quarter, I'll come back to that in a minute, but it's an aspect of life. Think of it more as an aspect than an exact quarter of time. The third would be your job or your work. You know, increasingly people are working from home, so they're still working, it's their job, but it's from home, or housewives, people, mums and dads who stay at home and look after children. My goodness, they are working, absolutely. Others get in the car in the morning at 7:30 or 8 o'clock and go off to a job. And so that's that aspect of work, that aspect of life. And of course, it's here where this work-life balance thing is being talked about for a long, long time. People want to find balance between the hours that they do at work, the responsibilities of their workplace, along with the rest of life, which is these other components, if you wish. And then finally, I want to call this fourth element, this fourth aspect, called giving back. Giving back. And what I mean by that is that you give some time, some quality time, and you're quite purposeful about this, you give back to the community. So it's about giving back to your community, or church, or some other civic sort of kind of responsibility that you might choose to add into your life. To contribute to the if you wish, the betterment to the community, to give something back of the benefits that you have received from maybe your school. You might be on your school board, you might be on a local, rates association, or you might be on a other committee of some sort, an environmental committee, or whatever it might be, sports committee, whatever it might be, you're going to give back to the wider community. So there in a very brief kind of nutshell, in a summary, I would say are the sort of the four quadrants of all of our lives. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to use a red pen now to just kind of make a couple of points about this. And I touched on this 2 messages ago when it comes to how much time then should we spend. If we're pursuing balance and we want to have enough time for the important things of this life, then kind of like how might that play out? So I want to be quite specific right now, quite practical. Well, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that we should be sleeping 56 hours a week. That is 8 hours a night. 8 times 7 when I went to school is 56, and the good news is that has not changed. It is still 56. So 56 hours we should be sleeping. We mostly don't, according to the research on this, but we should be. Whether children, teenagers should be sleeping more, but adults about 8 hours, 7.5 to 8 hours a night. So what I would like to suggest is that that's 56. Then the next big piece, so that's 56, you sleep. That's for yourself. Sleep is for restoration, for renewal. Actually, it's even now, we know, with the work that's been done on the brain, it's also for regeneration of your cells, and particularly brain cells. Sleep is so important because it actually regenerates brain cells. It's amazing how we've been made, and that during sleep there's work going on, really important work that's repairing and regenerating brain cells. Isn't it? Incredible. And it's amazing too. I don't even feel a thing. I'm non-compass. It's amazing. So that's why sleep actually is becoming more and more important. They're doing more and more research on that. So that's a big piece of every week. Every week there are, every week, there are, let me just go to this, 168 hours a week. 24 times 7 is 168. If you sleep 56, take away 56, you're left with 112 waking hours. So that's, now you've done your sleeping every night of the week and you now have 112 waking hours. And as I said in the earlier talk, that astonished me. Years ago when I did this when I kind of started to do some work around all of this, and I do a bit of teaching on time management and energy management, as it's called, oftentimes called these days. So here we have got 112 waking hours. Now, the other big component of life, for good or for bad, I enjoy my work, is our jobs. So let's say that most jobs require us to be, we're paid for 40 hours. 37 to 40 hours. But I want to be on the generous side because in some cities of our country here and all countries of the world, the commute time from home to work is long. And then there are other associated activities with your work that are not necessarily directly at the job, but they are related to it. So I want to suggest that I want to be generous and say there are 60 hours that we give to our job, or our paid work, if you wish. All right? So that's 60 hours. So we let's take that away from our calculation here, and we're now left with what? 52 hours that are not taken up in these two big chunks. 56 we sleep, 60 we work, tops, for most average New Zealanders, and according to a bit of work I've done on this, 60 is I know some people work 70 or 80 hours, but they are a few in number. 50 to 60 is kind of roundabout more common. So we're left then with 52 waking hours, hopefully awake. Now, how do you distribute those 52? Because I think that's what it boils down to. You need your 56 hours of sleep, and you need to do your work. You've got to have a paid job. You've got to have income. So that's a non-negotiable, and that's set. But you've now got 52. This is what I'd like to suggest to you and for you to think about. You have, and I have, 52 hours every week discretionary time. Yes? Discretionary. You can now choose what you do with those 52 hours. And I think what you do with those 52 hours, earlier on we had a text that, where Paul urged us to live wisely, to make the best opportunity and take the best opportunities of our life, of our time. Well, what might that be? How are you going to work with those 52 hours? So that's after you've slept, let me say again, and after you've worked, and including the travel time and other associated kind of bits and pieces. This is a crucial amount. This is a crucial decision, is these 52 hours, which, by the way, 50 times, if there's 52 weeks of the year, which there are, 52 times 52 is approximately about 2,600 hours a year. Woo! It mounts up. It's cumulative. I mean, 52 hours a week, every week, may not sound a lot, but when you look at it at 2,600 hours a year, wow, that's a good chunk of time. So what are you going to do with that? Well, here's a suggestion. Now, this is just for your thoughts, and I would really encourage you to think about doing this exercise for yourself. And you might come up with a different diagram, no problem. But just to analyse a little bit how your life is made up and how you're spending your time. So, family and so let me just go first of all to giving back. Christians traditionally and taught in the Bible have a thing called the tithe. It's basically 10% you give back to God through tithes offerings, donations if you wish, you give back to God 10% of what you earn. There's always a bit of a debate whether that's gross income or net income. For the moment, it doesn't matter. 10%. Now, I think that's a good guide. I wouldn't want to overwork the 10%, but let's just use it as a guide when it comes to giving back. So for Christians, a lot of that giving back will be to the church there. For you, it might be community, might be your school, where your kids go, or the kindy, or you're an environmentalist and you want to get involved in saving the dolphins or the forest or whatever it might be. Worthy causes, absolutely. Let me suggest that you might look at this as a 10% of your waking hours. So I'm going to put 12. If you did 10% of your waking hours, there's 112 waking hours, so let's just go round it up, 12 hours that you give to, that you give back. You just, voluntary, you give back. And it may include, actually, just as a little aside, also your finances. So you might actually help fund some of the things that you're involved in. And of course, as Christians, that's what we do every Sunday when we take up our offering. We take up our offering, we call it oftentimes our tithe. So that's 12 hours. So then there is a little bit more time that you need here for your meals and other personal things that you need to do. You know, got to have a shower now and again, let's face it. Otherwise it'd become a pretty stinky world. So you need to have a shower, you need to kind of do all of that stuff, and you know, and you need to spend a bit of time in R&R, personal development, as I've said earlier. So let's just group that and say that you give another 17 hours to all of that. Look, you change the numbers if you want. I'm just giving you some thoughts on this, and what probably is pretty much how it reflects in my life. And then finally, we've only got one quadrant left, which is family and friends, and that has the remainder, which is actually 23. If you add up all of those hours, that will come, amazingly, to 168. So now we've slept sufficiently, we've given enough time to work, and now I would like to suggest we've probably given enough time to all of the other important things in this life. When you are in the midst of family life and you've got a bunch of children and they're all clamouring for your attention, or you've got a teenage family, you're going to have to borrow a bit from somewhere. You might, you know, if you're a parent of teenage kids, you're probably going to have to borrow from sleep. So for a little bit, you're going to borrow and put a bit more time into that. You may even put a bit more time from there into that. You may actually end up for a period of time not having any time for giving back. And that's okay. But over the long haul, this, I would suggest, is what you should pursue and what I should pursue, and which will bring balance. And then with balance comes the beautiful thing where you give attention to the things that are important, not just the things that are urgent. So I want to say, yes, there is enough time. We keep saying, I'm busy, I wish I had another day in the week, I wish I had another 2 days in the week. Look, I understand that, I've said those things, but really they're quite dumb, because there is enough time. God has put things in place that he gives us 112 waking hours every week of every year. 2,600 discretionary hours a year to do with what we want. And as the Bible says to us, to do, hopefully, to expend those hours thoughtfully and carefully. So that's kind of my piece of art. I guess, yeah, a little bit of a diagram there. And as I say, work with this and change it as works for you. But let me just kind of wind this up by saying this. I am aware that there is in the literature on this subject, because as I say, I've worked a bit in time management, that there is a bit of a pushback on balance. In fact, there are some people who strongly push back on balance, and they suggest that the pursuit of balance is a cop-out. That if you want to really be a high achiever, this is the kind of kicker that they come up with. If you really want to be a high achiever, being a balanced person will never do it. You cannot be an Elon Musk, who probably is not that balanced when you really look at his life a little bit, and I have, because I teach innovation, so I need to look at one of the serial innovators and entrepreneurs of our day is Elon Musk. I would say, reading his stuff and reading his lifestyle, not that balanced. He is very passionate. He is on a pursuit to do some amazing stuff and already doing it. But that's an exception. I don't think balance is a cop-out. I beg to differ. Balance is not about retreating. The pursuit of balance is not about inactivity. The pursuit of balance is not about mediocrity. No, it is not. The pursuit of balance is simply wisdom. Paul says, be wise how you live. Balance is about wisdom. It's about giving time to the things that really matter. And as far as I'm a passionate person. I have a fair amount of passion running through these veins. And I come at my life, and I'm passionate about the stuff I do for myself and my own, to make my life kind of work, personal. I'm passionate about my family and friends. In fact, particularly on the friends side of things, I mean, definitely family, that's a given and that's a constant. But on the friend side of things, my wife and I have decided we're definitely going to give a bit more time to our friends. So we're empty nesters and we can do that. We can give a bit more time to that. And yes, I'm passionate about my work, and I do at least 60 hours, for sure, most weeks. I love my work, and so it's not a problem. But I come at life and all of these quadrants passionately. I sit on about 3 or 4 boards. I do that work passionately. Balance and passion do not have to be mutually exclusive. They can work together, and I would like to propose that we come at life passionately in all of these quadrants. As I close, there's a middle circle, and you won't be surprised what I'm going to put in the middle circle. It's simply a 3-letter word that means a lot to me. Means a lot to a lot of people. It's the word God. That at the center of all of life, there is a person. There is a relationship. There is a dynamic that actually makes everything else, for me, really meaningful. It gives added meaning to all of the 4 quadrants of my life. Is my relationship with God through Jesus Christ. So I would like to propose to you that's something to think about when you look at this, that God has given us a life. He's instructed us to live it meaningfully, purposefully, and wisely. He's given us family. He's given us relationships. He's blessed us in our industrialized and our advanced economies work gives meaning and purpose to life. Fabulous. But if we just take those at face value, that's fine. But if we look at those and interact with those components of life in context of our relationship with God, it adds meaning and it adds significance, without a doubt. So when Jesus was around doing his work, people were always fascinated as to what made him tick. What made him this supremely balanced man, lived a simple life, didn't seem to hurry, certainly didn't even know what hurry sickness is, seemed to be just like, had time for people. Time for doing things that really change the trajectory of people's lives. And I think the secret is in a very, very simple little phrase that Jesus himself said. Love the Lord your God. This is Jesus' words. Love the Lord your God. Put God, that word love means, it's not just like I love ice cream. It's not like that. It's like a real commitment. It's a passionate commitment. It's an embrace of something. And in this case, God. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all your soul, because your soul matters, all your strength, and all your mind. In other words, love God with all that you are. Now, that's a challenge, for sure. But that's the invitation, actually. That's the invitation for you, to love God with every dimension of your life. Your heart, the seat of affections, your soul, where you kind of make decisions and commitments, your strength, your mind. And then, so that's for you personally, have the God focus. And then love your neighbour as yourself. Neighbour. When you read this text, they say, well, who is my neighbour? And Jesus gives this fantastic story of the Good Samaritan. But your neighbour is your family. It's your spouse. It's your kids. It's your siblings. It's your parents. It's everybody else. It's your neighbour. Love your neighbour. Love God. Love your neighbour. Love the people at work. Love them. Be kind to them. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Stop the adversarial behaviour. Give grace. Give some slack. Do the same in the community involvement, the giving back that you do. And then your life, I think, will find, without even overworking it, a remarkable balance and a beauty and a restfulness that will bless your soul.
Let us pray together. Gracious God, we thank you that each and every day your mercies are new. We surrender our lives to you, and we come as we are, knowing that you love us and that you give good gifts to us. Thank you for your presence in our lives, and we know that you will order our steps if we trust you. Lord, stay with us as our daily companion in all our moments of doubt, struggle, and uncertainty and change. Companion with us on the journey, and as we seek to live well in our daily lives. We thank you for your help, your love, and your strength. In Jesus' name, amen.
The song that we would like to recommend for you to have a listen to in this episode is a song called God Who Moves the Mountains by a gospel singer called Corey Voss. It's a song about God being able to do what seems hard to do. It's a song about God being able to do the impossible. And that kind of works well when we've been talking about simplicity and balance. These are not easy things to pursue, to achieve. So it's about God's strength. It's a great song. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that this series has been of some value to you and that it will cause you to reflect and to think and maybe to slow down and to simplify life. I thank you for joining us, and God bless you, and look forward to seeing you next time.